As some of you know, episode 7 of Murder Drones is turning 1 year old this year, and if you don't know, I believe this episode is the best this series has to offer. When compared to the brilliance of the pilot, and okay, I admit this episode doesn't have much competition, you've gotta be a hell of an episode to be the best. And Mass Destruction makes it clear what its main highlights are, even if certain aspects are weak. To start, the atmosphere is incredible. The start of the episode is the best hook Murder Drones has to offer, with it finally showing us what happened in the labs. And what's in those labs is an eldritch godlike being where if it doesn't kill you, it'll either skin you alive or reassemble you into one of her servants. Either way, you're dead. This creates a threat that the humans want to face, causing a conflict to be established immediately. But just looking at the church, it's eye candy. The way it lights up in the flashbacks, it radiances with a powerful source, making it feel lively yet dangerous. However, in the present, the church is a ruin, instead being a quiet but intimidating place to explore, alongside with the mystery of what the flesh hole even is. What is it? It has a you shouldn't be here vibe. Though it's not just the church, the cramped hallways at the beginning reminding me of the atmosphere of Dead End being claustrophobic. I can understand if someone doesn't like the scenes of Uzi just roaming around the place, but I personally love just seeing the environment. It adds so much character to the layout. Tessa going through the lockers to burn the crucifix documents, with us seeing some of JC Jensen's remaining working tech, is interesting to see. It makes me wonder what else remains of JC Jensen on Copper 9. The burning of the landing pod feeling wrong as something that's been there for so long, what was originally the main goal of the series to repair. It's just a burnt structure in the corpse spires now. And the ending with Uzi waking up in space, it's so surreal, only to pan out to see the destruction of Copper 9. It makes it clear that Uzi may not be in danger right now, but she isn't safe yet. Though, despite the praise I've been giving it so far, there are a few flaws I'd like to mention, all tying back to one aspect of the series: the characters. The most interesting thing Uzi does is get possessed, and his entire character, outside of a quick moment that has no outside influence on the series, is him being Uzi's #1 simp. He is not beating the allegations. Tessa is nowhere near as entertaining as she was the past 2 episodes. Doll and Jay are underwhelming, Fad and Lizzie are worthless, Khan feels wildly out of character, and I could make an entire section on what's so wrong about Nori. This all stems from the lack of character interactions, which heavily affects the character writing. The characters with established relationships barely talk, and they're replaced with new characters, which could be interesting, but in an episode so focused on the plot, they can't focus on giving the characters new sides to them due to the circumstances, leading to the character interactions coming off as mediocre at best and dull at worst. Lizzie and Fad are the best of the 3, as well we don't get any depths added to them. They give off sibling vibes and are entertaining to watch, even if their side plot literally leads nowheres. Tessa and Doll's one talk barely counts, but it is somewhat notable as Doll needed more screen time than she was given, but outside of that, it doesn't add any value to Doll or Tessa's character. And worse, it takes away from their characters. It leads to Doll dying, which ruins all the potential she had. It makes the Sinessa plot twist incredibly obvious, and I'd be amazed if someone saw that and didn't think Tessa was in any way connected to the solver. And then Nori is just Nori info dumping to end. It's a very lazy way to tell a story, creating her for the express purpose of spilling out lore. Her character is uninteresting, and despite losing V and being at risk of losing Uzi, doesn't act outside of his cheerful personality, leading to anything interesting they could have been done with them dying on the spot the moment Nori saved N. All of this is a shame because there's a really easy fix to this problem. Just have N be revealed to be the one who killed Nori. Uzi might have forgiven him, but Nori definitely wouldn't have. Not only would this force N to confront his past as a disassembly drone, bringing out new characterization for him, but maybe they could explore Nori more, making her feel less like a plot device and explaining why she left Khan and Uzi without telling them she was alive, which is arguably more emotionally neglectful than Khan leaving Uzi behind the doors. At least he had a reason. What's her excuse? Like mother, like daughter, the most interesting thing Nori does this episode is get possessed. Nori's relationship with Yeva is surface level, and I've already explained why her relationship with N is weak, leaving her with no dynamics that I care about. Not only this, but Nori coming back from the dead ruins the stakes, as this is the 3rd time this has happened. How am I supposed to take this episode, or even the whole series, seriously when I know there's a decent chance some character might come back from the dead? But despite all the weak character writing due to the lack of using established relationships, this episode still has some qualities that not only redeem itself and more, but make it the best episode of any indie series in 2024. Start off, the horror is phenomenal. The intro scene of Mitchell walking through the church before coming up to a bloody hand not only shocks the audience since we didn't expect to see actual human gore up so close, but because that meant that the solver, in the span of a couple minutes that Mitchell had left to go get Yeva, had killed everyone except the priest, making it clear that the solver is not to be messed with and its powers well beyond our understandings. This builds fear around the solver that will come back near the end of the episode. And this is just one out of 4 brilliantly written horror scenes for this episode. And unlike Home, the tension isn't broken down, it's built up. The next one is the weakest out of the 4, but just the pure shock value of seeing Earth when the murder drones were first made and holding a dead body, the sun being blocked out by a NOAA helicopter being torn to shreds in one blow, all of it is just phenomenal. I don't have any other words to describe how amazing it is. It just strikes you with so much gore, the thing we wish the Gala massacre was, that I counted as a horror scene despite it not having much tension building. Besides for that ominous line that Sin could have changed N, B, and J's entire personalities, but didn't because she found it more fun when her prey would run. But that didn't mean they could run. The second to last scene has the most tension building of all. Hell, it's so good that it almost excuses the tragic waste of Doll's character. While the scene does ruin the plot twist later in the episode, the amount of horror from the realization having no time to process in your mind as the lights suddenly go out, leaving only the light of Doll's eyes and the solver, the very thing that's hunting her down, being visible. We hear tapping from the other side of the room, then there's more, until it becomes overwhelming, something is coming, and it is not friendly. You are not safe, and that thing is creeping closer. Nothing. The tapping stops, leaving its deafening silence. And then... her doom was coming the moment she chose to face Tessa alone. We barely see it, the mouth gaping, monstrously hunting before it leaves us without knowing what happened to Doll. You continue the episode, wondering what happened to her. But with so much going on, it slips your mind. Until later in the episode, Uzi is shown in terror, figuring out what her mother had been through, what her mother had been forced to do. Lightning strikes. A shadow creeps its way towards Uzi. But the shadows that can't harm anyone anymore. Bleeding. Torn apart, left behind from their own decisions of self-isolation, she collapses from slipping on her own oil, her own blood. Doll was eaten alive, every step surely agonizing, drawing out her pain. But she went through all of that to not live, but to send a message to the last one who could beat Sin. Fight back. This parallels quite nicely with what Uzi says to N at the end of the episode. Die mad. One message was born of a desperate struggle, the urge to stay alive, and even when succumbing all alone, it demanded that no matter what, they kept fighting. The others said to accept fate. We all die one day, but even when our time will come, we shouldn't go out as a faded star, but instead blazing with determination. They're both actually very inspiring messages to me, and it makes me wish Uzi and Doll's relationship wasn't so half-baked, as it easily could have been the best pairing in the series. Well, second best, to Jay and Tessa, of course. But of course, there's still one last horror scene, and despite Doll's death having a tragic story behind it, her death wouldn't come close to the brutality of the last scene. Late in the episode, Tessa has been killed due to N's idiotic nature. Her corpse rotting away. But her corpse didn't just start rotting away today. Her helmet rolls away softly, before the cracking of bones as she grabs the helmet. But who is she? She can't be Tessa, but she can be.
Get snuck upon.
That thing lunges at him, ripping out his chest. Nothing can stop the end times. He was never stopped by Yeva. It was only prevented for a short amount of time, and now the Silver had everything in its grasp. The implications of this are clear but cold. Tessa didn't survive the Gala massacre. She was skinned alive. We don't know which possessed drone did it, but I have a guess. The tragedy of Tessa, a foolish yet brave hero, a reckless but caring person, a disgrace to her parents but a friend to the drones she saved, was killed by her own goodness wanting to save everyone else, and instead of being allowed to rest in peace knowing they tried when everyone else stood by, instead has her friends turned into mindless killers, her close friend is turned into nothing but a desperate lackey, and her body is bleeding dry on the very thing that took everything she valued, everything she cherished, everything she loved, everything she ever had in her life was swallowed by the abyss. She is the most tragic character in the series, and it's not even a competition. Doll dug her own path, but Tessa's path was already made the moment she decided to be a good person and try and save the still living drones from the piles of their own corpses. This is where the best thing about this episode shines: its importance. The Sinessa plot twist is the main turning point in the story, the moment where Sin becomes an antagonist that can no longer be ignored, where Doll's demise is sealed, and where Newsy finally comes into play in a meaningful way. It's mainly the Sinessa plot twist, but this episode is the most important one to the plot of Murder Drones. That's why, even if some episodes have certain aspects that can beat it, Mass Destruction holds a special place in my heart because it's the ideal version of Murder Drones I wanted. A flawed but passionate, horrifying, and tragic story of what happens when a world-ending virus is let out on the loose, where death is guaranteed, where love is lost and found. As despite the hollow void Murder Drones has left on me due to the ending, this episode is a gem. Mass Destruction was a time when I thought Murder Drones was still peak, and that no matter what happened, my love of the series would continue to grow instead of diminish. But even though I was wrong about that doesn't mean this episode has lost any emotional value it has to me. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all.